Hello everyone. So today I'm talking about the stones of remembrance. I got it from the book of Joshua chapter 4. So this is when the Israelites under Joshua's leadership crossed the river Jordan into the promised land. Context. Number one, the context, the crossing of the Jordan. So Joshua 4 verse 1 to 3, God commands Joshua to have one man from each tribe of the 12 tribes take a stone from Jordan and set it up as a memorial. This event marks a significant milestone, the fulfillment of God's promise to bring the Israelites into the promised land. It was a moment of transition from wandering in the wilderness to stepping into the inheritance. So the key lesson here that we get is God is faithful to his promises. He provides a way even when it seems impossible, just as he parted the Jordan. You know, in our lives there sometimes when you feel like, is there ever going to be a way? But when it is impossible to us, it is impossible in the human mind, but very possible when it comes to God. Everything is possible when it comes to God. So number two, purpose of the stones of remembrance, like the key point. The stones, they were meant to spark curiosity in future generations, prompting them to ask, what do these stones mean? So they were a testimony to God's miraculous power in stopping the river so the Israelites could cross on dry ground. The memorial served to remind the Israelites to trust God in future challenges. So, application. We too, we need to set up stones of remembrance in our lives. Moments where we pause and acknowledge God's faithfulness. I know there are moments like those in our lives where we can stop and pause and acknowledge, oh, that was God. And we can put those stones, like we can set them up and spark curiosity in other people, like, what is this for? Why did you do this? What is this stone for? But we can tell them that it's a stone of remembrance and it's how we acknowledge God's faithfulness. Point number 3, teaching future generations. So we read it from Joshua 4:21 to 22. Joshua instructs the Israelites to tell their children about the stones, recounting the story of God's mighty hand. The memorial wasn't just for those who crossed the Jordan. It was a legacy of faith for generations to come. So here we get the key lesson. Share testimonies of God's faithfulness with others, especially with children, to pass down a legacy of faith. So we need to share the testimonies in our lives of how God has sailed us through difficulties, how God has sailed us through hardships, even how God has fought for us in our lives. We need to share those with our children so that we leave a legacy of faith for them. And this is actually, when I was reading Joshua 4, I never thought of it like we can share our testimonies with others, and this can also help them to know who God is, and they can also trust God through what we share and through what we tell them. Point number 4, remembering God in times of transition. Joshua 4:24. The stones were also a witness to the nations, declaring that the hand of the Lord is mighty and calling people to hear him. So, transition in life, new jobs, moves, or challenges, or opportunities to remember how God has been faithful in the past and to trust him for the future. So the application, what's the application here? Reflect on the stones in your life. We have those memories, answered prayers. We have miracles that happen to us, or turning points, and let them strengthen your faith in uncertain times. There are those uncertain times when we need those stones of remembrance. We look back and we look at them and we realize that God has been faithful because he has made you cross other Jordans, other rivers that you've crossed in your lives. Those are difficulties, hardships, when you just thought, oh, maybe I may not sell this through, or maybe I may not come out alive. But you came out alive, and you need to thank God for those. And point number 5, Jesus is our ultimate stone of remembrance. So, just as the Israelites set up physical stones to remember their deliverance, Jesus is our ultimate memorial. 1 Peter 2:4-6, Jesus is the living stone chosen by God and precious to us. The cross and the empty tomb are our reminders of God's greatest act of deliverance. So what's the key lesson here? Our faith is built on the cornerstone of Christ. Regularly reflect on his sacrifice and resurrection. So to conclude all this about the stones of remembrance, how to apply the message. Number 1, create your own stones of remembrance. Write down significant moments when God has been faithful to you. I know God has been faithful to each and every one of us. We cannot say, oh, he hasn't been faithful. Please write that down. Share the stories with your family and community. By doing that, it also strengthens you as a person. It strengthens your faith as well. 2, celebrate God's faithfulness. Practice gratitude and worship as a response to God's past works. Gratitude can change your perspective. You just need to be very grateful in everything, no matter what. Be happy, be joyful. Rejoice in the Lord always. It wasn't specified when to be joyful, but you just need to rejoice always. Be it you're in hardships or you're in difficulties, the Lord is with you. Just be happy. Trust him for the future. Remembering that God has done gives us confidence to trust him in new challenges. Just remembering what God has done for us gives us confidence. And I'm confident because if I remember the testimonies that are in my life, I can see that the Lord has done an amazing work. Just being here alive, it just shows me that God is amazing and God is marvelous. It doesn't need to be grateful about big things. Life itself is important. We have to remember that life itself is important. So, why did I bring this message about the stones of remembrance? This message encourages believers to pause, remember and trust in God's faithfulness, drawing strength from the past to move forward in faith. I hope by this you can be blessed by the stones of remembrance message. Make your own stones of remembrance. Write things down. Write those miracles down so that whenever you're facing hardships, you can open that journal and then read. You pause and acknowledge that God has always been with you and he will still be with you. Be blessed.